Well, hey folks, welcome to a mini lecture dealing with social media as a research environment. In this mini lecture, I'll talk about the variation that we see in regard to social media. After doing so, I'll talk about social network considerations as it relates to using this environment for research purposes. In the same vein, I'll have a conversation about the usage of e-forums and blogs. And then finally, toward the end of this presentation, folks, I'll talk about steps for working with online forums and two approaches to analyzing data. At its basic level, social media refers to the interaction among individuals in which they create, share, and/or exchange ideas or information in online networks and communities. Using a set of theories from media research and social processes, Kaplan and Heinlein classified different types of social media. Some media involves much more physical, visual, and acoustic contact, such as virtual second worlds, while other media on that criteria is pretty low, for example, Twitter. Some social media is pretty high in self-presentation and self-disclosure, such as microblogs like Twitter, while other forms of social media, like Wikipedia, is pretty low on that criteria. The examples I provided are simple examples, and it should be noted that Wikipedia varies along media richness and social presence, and virtual second worlds also have a high self-presentation and self-disclosure rating. At any rate, the key takeaway is that all social media is not created equal, and they vary along the previously identified criteria. Given this, many researchers have taken interest in exploring these platforms for psychological research purposes. Now let's begin our discussion of online research environments with social networks. Social network sites can be described as online systems and services that permit individuals to create their own profile that may be public or restricted in some way. Key features of social network sites is that they permit individuals to make their social networks visible, connect with others they may have not otherwise connected with. They allow individuals to establish a friend listing, post messages, and send private messages. Some social networks require a paid subscription with limitations for the lay public, for example, LinkedIn, while others are free and are visible to any web user by default. Using this platform has several benefits, such as accessing hard-to-reach populations by way of snowball sampling, and it's a reservoir of naturalistic behavioral data that may be highly reflective of individual experiences and less distorted. Things that researchers should take into consideration is the activity level of users on social media sites, given that some posts may be extremely terse. Also, researchers should consider the validity of messages posted, given that messages could be honest reflections or interactions with peers, or they could be dishonest and characterized by conformity given the public space. Finally, researchers should consider generalizability concerns, given that social media users and non-social media users may differ across personality, age, group, gender, etc., and this could make it extremely difficult to generalize to the wider public. An e-group or online forum is a feature in many social networking sites that allows users to create and post, comment on, and read from their own interest-specific forums. Some groups may be closed and require registration, while other groups may be open to the public by default. There are forums on almost every conceivable topic, for example, TV programming, dieting, cultural groups, etc. Online forums is much like an online discussion site with a tree-like structure that can be organized into subforums or thematic sections. There are a number of potential benefits of using online forums, such as the vast amount of online material given that some forums have several thousands of registered members, and the naturally occurring conversations that may occur as a result of anonymity. Some of the drawbacks include, well, you guessed it, anonymity, or an inability to get background information or verify any demographic information provided. Additionally, the researcher may encounter issues with generalizability, since there is no guarantee that the individuals that use e-forums are like individuals who do not use e-forums. Moving on, A blog is a website that includes a series of regularly updated, reverse chronologically ordered, and date-stamped posts or entries on a common web page. Blogs usually comprise instant text and graphics publishing, an archiving system arranged and organized by date, and it typically allows readers to comment on specific posts. Microblogs such as Twitter have become extremely popular and provide a wealth of new opportunities for psychologists because it provides a platform through which psychologists can explore public opinion over time. It's also popular because there's a huge amount of tweets, all of which can be included in a data set. And finally, it's really popular because a broad range of people choose to use Twitter, which makes it possible to examine tweets from different social groups. Now I want to take some time and provide a step-by-step guide for working with online forums. These steps will prove to be applicable to working with blogs as well, though there should be less tidying up of the data when preparing it for analysis purposes. The first step that the researcher should undertake involves searching and identifying the online discussion board forum. The researcher should use multiple search engines to do so, and the researcher should also use a variety of search terms while keeping in mind that sites may vary on how sites are named. For example, online support group or online support community. It may be helpful for the researcher to keep in mind that their topic of interest may be a subboard that is a part of a larger discussion forum. Researchers should also monitor the forums for a while to ensure that a large number of individuals are interacting and that a decent amount of posts are being made a day. So in general, researchers should avoid forums that have 50 individuals or less. All of this ensures that adequate sampling numbers are attained. The next step involves the researcher selecting relevant forums and subforums based on their research question and time frame. If the project is meant to satisfy the requirements of a thesis or practicum in an undergraduate career, then that time factor should be taken into consideration. If the project is addressing a phenomenon that is convoluted and a lengthy process, for example, infertility or parental support for children with autism, then the researchers will want to ensure that they are obtaining data that represents the process they are looking to explore and the longitudinal nature of it. The third step involves deciding which conversation threads to use. The researcher may desire to select a group of conversation threads from a certain time period, or they may not have a preference in regard to certain threads. If the latter is the case, then the researcher should ensure that they obtain a random sample, perhaps by numbering all of the conversation threads and using a random number generator, to ensure that they have equal representation of conversation threads of varying lengths. The researcher must consider how many conversation threads are needed to generate a meaningful analysis, and given this, the researcher may want to use data to the point of saturation. To use data to the point of saturation essentially means that research is taking place until no more meaningful insights are gleaned. The next step involves preparing the data for analysis. Data downloaded from the forum should be purged of any items or images from the website. Should also be purged of any duplicate information unless this sort of interests the researcher and they're curious about it. It should also not include any formatting information. In other words, all of the information should be converted into plain text using some type of word processor so that the data can be ready for analysis in some type of software platform. Researchers could elect to prepare data by hand, but it will likely be a daunting, tedious, and time-consuming task. Two broad types of data analysis have been undertaken with online forums, folks. I want to spend some time talking about those two approaches now. In a text reduction approach, the aim is to reduce the data into a set of meaningful themes or concepts. If the researcher elects to go with this type of analysis, then a decision needs to be made as far as what is a unit of analysis. Some researchers propose that a single posting should be considered as a unit of analysis in online discussion forums. As far as the codes, some researchers elect to go with codes used by other researchers. And with permission, they may simply adapt the codes to the online environment with an understanding that novel codes may be required to capture unique phenomenon. Sometimes researchers may elect to use an in-depth approach to data analysis by undertaking a thematic analysis. Thematic analysis may involve rereading messages or posts several times and assigning different codes to the message. After assigning different relevant codes to the message, each of the coded messages would be sorted to themes, and all data relevant to the theme would be collated. Following the theme creation, a clear definition for each of the themes would be generated, with possible descriptive statistics related to the number of messages associated with codes and themes provided in publications. I want to spend some time, folks, talking about YouTube and virtual worlds, given that they could provide a rich environment in which research could take place. YouTube was founded in 2005, and it is a video sharing website that permits users to upload, view, and share videos. I know you knew that. YouTube may be a useful environment through which to conduct research because it's extremely popular with adolescents, and it provides a viable means by which any kind of media can be studied, and content can be easily edited and manipulated, thereby making it suitable for experimental designs, given that there's the ability to post comments about materials, and to the latter point, the public visibility of the comments makes it possible to explore peer influence. No more ands. YouTube has been used to help researchers generate relevant questionnaires, and in addition to being used to assess the impact of peer influence on perceptions, the influence of expert messaging in certain cultures can also be assessed by manipulating the usernames. Virtual second worlds provide a rich environment, given that they are online worlds where nearly every aspect of human endeavor and action can be undertaken virtually. These environments provide unique opportunities for psychologists to explore how these online worlds affect individuals' offline lives. Some researchers have found that the ways in which individuals interact in virtual worlds, for example, Second Life, parallels the ways in which they interact in their offline physical worlds. Thanks for listening.